Welcome to the show, Nupur.
Good
So,
evening, Manish.
good evening. So, आज की जो talk है, that is about uh, academics as a career option, and we have with us today Major Nupur Gupta. And अगर मैं if I start reading Nupur's career profile and her accomplishments and her educational qualifications, तो 15 मिनट इसमें लग जाएंगे और 15 मिनट उसकी तारीफ करने में लग जाएंगे. So I will keep it very brief. Uh, Major Nupur Gupta is an ex engineer course officer, and she is a UGC NAIC qualified dual postgraduate from. She is an IM Lucknow alumni uh, with 27 years of experience in education, edutech, administration, and curriculum design, teaching, training, leadership development. I can keep going on actually. Marketing research. She is an ICF certified coach, uh, soft skill trainer, corporate trainer, and coach, and trained the trainer from Indian Leadership Academy. And this is just about 10% of her profile, so I would not go ahead. So Nupul,
Thank you.
very impressive. Must say, very impressive. I am myself
Thank
an
you.
ICF certified coach, though I never pursued that track. But yes, very impressive. I must say. So we are going to talk about education sector, academics, coaching, freelance training, everything under the sun as far as this particular domain is concerned. So I hope you are ready, Nupur.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
No. You deserve every word. So, okay. So, uh, before we move on, can you just tell us what is your current role? What is your current this thing? Just to
Okay.
hear from you.
I am the Dean Academics with IMS Noida, which is situated in Sector 62 Noida. And
Okay.
it's a multifold or I'll say a vast organization. As of now, I'm handling around 100 faculties and maybe around 4,000 plus students.
So, Nupur, uh, leave aside everything. How is the energy of all those young people around you?
See, when we talk about, in fact, this is something which I would like to touch upon today on the pros and cons of why academics. Something which I feel very important is that keeps me young. Because instead of meeting my peers of my age group, when I meet a child of, let's say, 17, 18 every day in the morning, and my age span ranges to even 60-year-old students. So,
I,
meeting each one of them every day in the morning is, I say, it keeps me young and it is energy filled.
so Nupur, I can't agree more with you actually. Just before we started this talk, उससे पहले 1 घंटा पहले मैंने 2 मिनट का एक वीडियो बनाया था about today's talk, only telling everyone what we are going to cover, and I covered the same thing, that if you want to feel the energy of young people and university atmosphere, it's different. So it's quite exciting, and as we spoke earlier during the day, uh, I myself have been thinking of doing something associated with it, and of course I will take your guidance. And uh, so before we move on further, you said you are dean academics. It's very confusing. There are professors, there are dean, there is registrar, deputy registrar, there is chancellor, vice chancellor, principal, vice principal. What is all this? Can you just tell us what is dean, registrar, deputy registrar, and principal? Principal is of
Okay,
course
no.
people.
Instead of going on to these three profiles only, I'll like to explain it in a different fashion. Any
Sure,
institute has multiple roles.
right,
First role is teachers and students. So they are the core part of the institute. Okay.
right,
And when we talk about the teachers, they are divided into various stratas, which would be assistant professor, which is the joining level. Then you move on to associate professor, and from there you move on to professors.
right,
Generally, the senior professors take on the administrative role also, and they go in as HODs, that is head of the departments. Then you have the dean. Then you have the directors. Directors are also synonymally called as the principals. Okay.
Okay.
So dean academics or a principal generally are taken as a replica for each other, and then you move to the director.
Okay.
Ahead from director are the pro vice or vice chancellor and such kind of appointments. So these are the teaching profiles. However, the moment you move ahead from associate professor, you get into a administration plus academics. Now, to
Okay.
make the institute function, you have certain administrative roles which are totally administrative.
Right.
There you have admin who is taking care of the administration or the facilities. You also have the HR head who is taking care of the HR aspect of the institute. You also have the security management, and depending upon the kind of institute you are associated with, you also have the training department, you have the placement department, you also have the registrar.
Right.
So there are multiple administrative roles, and you also have the placement head. So you might have a training and placement one head, oblique training head separately and placement head separately. So these are some of the roles that we have in the institutes.
Okay. And I have seen uh, that for placements, for of course, in teaching assignments as well as in administrative assignments, uh, a lot of armed forces veterans are already there in particular. Besides, of course, and then you also have a business side to it. Foreign collaboration, student exchange programs, etc., etc., which also is quite a lucrative career option.
It
Right,
is.
right. So, before we come to academics proper, I have also observed that in your profile that you are ICF certified coach and you have been and you other corporate training. You have been associated in involved in the corporate training arena also. So, how how lucrative is that particular field? Since both are related, it's not core academics, but I would say it is an associated field. And since armed forces officers and also people from other industries also have some of them, all those who have very good communication skills, uh, they it's a good career option for them and a very paying one at that, uh, with a lot of flexibility, work from
Yes.
home, etc., etc. So while you were there, first of all, can you throw some light on it, and why did you switch from that field to this?
Okay, I'll give you a small brief, possibly that will help everybody understand. We are having this session for all the people who are either who have taken a break from the army or the services, or those who are planning. So when I left the army did not have an option of a permanent commission. And I knew the growth as an army officer, I'm not going to command a regiment ever at that point of time. So I moved after serving for 10 years, and the first appointment which I got in corporate expected me to work, let's say, almost 12 to 13 hours. I got a placement from I am Lucknow to Wipro, and Wipro offered me a job from 2 in the afternoon till 12 in the night, and the travel extras. Now, my son was in the growing age, and somewhere I had a constraint that one purpose of leaving the army, because both of us are serving personnel. So I had to think about the grooming of my child, and that is why I left Wipro and joined a academic institute. Now, as you mentioned yourself, that the communication is a very strong aspect, the etiquettes that we learn. So, soft skill is a stronger aspect of any defense personnel. Communication is strong, you are good in English, you can express very well, and you also have a wider knowledge base to discuss most of the common issues, which helps you to develop the interpersonal relationship. Or let's say if you're standing in a crowd, you will be able to discuss. And along with this, all of us have a wider experience, so we understand different cultures, we understand different traditions, different thought process from various cultures and other bases. Now, knowing all this, I joined as a training and corporate connect appointment, which we generally call it as a training and placement head in the academic institute. So I joined as a head training and corporate communication. Now, this is as how I joined, an inherent skill which any defense personnel will have. But what has happened in these last 15 years is everybody who has good these skills, whether it's a communication or whether it's a training or imparting or sharing of knowledge, has started calling them a self-called or self-proclaimed trainer.
Right.
So there is abundance of trainers. Now, how do you differentiate a person who is skilled and a certified? So most of the organization, in fact, I was dealing with one of the interactions with the team of Delhi Skill and Entrepreneurship University, which has come up with the initiative of Delhi government. So there also the first thing they ask, are you certified? And that is where the certification comes in place. There are multiple agencies, some are doing on a person base, some are doing on an organization base. So I would recommend anybody looking for a career in training and coaching or learning or NLP or behavioral skills, all those types of skills. There are multiple folds. So you can decide, but do find out which is a more suitable and a recognized training agency which will provide you certificates. It costs some money, but depending upon there are different modules. Now, not going into the advertising part of it, how many companies, which all, and what is the cost, I'll leave it to you to find out. As far as the lucrative offer is concerned, yes, training is lucrative. Depending upon what do you deliver, there is a cost which starts from, let's say, 2,500 rupees per hour to 20,000 rupees per hour also. So depending upon what you are seeking and what you are delivering, there are full day packages, there are half day packages, there are hourly packages also. So there are multiple agencies which are giving. The cost dynamics depend on what you deliver. Yes, maybe initially you may take time to adjust in the environment, but there is no dearth of opportunities, if I say. So if you are in X place, you will find the opportunity there. If you are ready to travel, you will be getting more opportunities. If you are flexible, if you have done your research work a lot on the given topics, depending upon the kind of audience or the company you are searching, there is a vast scope in it.
So Nupur, yeah, I'm I have been involved with certain distinct trainers myself. Basically, I was on the hiring side, getting them
Okay.
for my organization. But you tell me, when you are freelancing, a lot of our subscribers, our family members, they're interested in knowing about work from home, remote opportunities, and other opportunities in the same domain. How does one connect with these organizations?
See, this is business development that I feel everybody has to take on. If you are freelancing, you will have to promote yourself. You will also have to create your own proposals. You will have to set up your cost dynamics. And a simple question, why would somebody take me in comparison to anybody else?
Absolutely. Right.
These days, especially the COVID times, have given us the opportunity instead of a physical interaction. Many of us are doing a lot of things on a social media. Whereas in defense services, typically we were told that social media is not to be used. So somewhere or the other, the transition phase, while we are moving on, we did not have anything to back us up. So I would recommend that all those who are willing to go into this field, start using social media, create your own page, whatever small or large that you are doing, promote it there. If required, ask your family and friends and your colleagues to like it. That would help you initially to build up your pace. And and slowly, if your work is recognized, people will start connecting with you and asking you for the task. It doesn't happen overnight that today you are certified and tomorrow you will have a lot of role. It doesn't happen that way. That's the harsh reality of it.
So I would like to add something here. You know, most of us think that leadership training is, I mean, we get hold of certain leadership PowerPoint presentations, and then we add some anecdotes from our own lives, and then we think this is what is leadership. The corporate training, leadership training is a little different. and these certifications do help. There is a method to building these cases, these proposals, and also what is the big corporates, what are they looking for? So it's a little different. It's not very different, but it is little different. And our experience definitely helps in us in this. But you need to know what those certifications cover and what are the points. If you're going for a sales leadership training, it may be little different than if you're going for some other kind of leadership. Motivation training is different. So it is good to acquire these certifications in case you are interested in uh, joining this particular career option. And in case you're interested, then I can try and get one of the top trainers of in this domain. But you will have to comment. You will have to. I want to see how many people really want it, because otherwise there's no point wasting the effort. So do comment in the chat box whenever, uh, or maybe when this video is released at that time. Please comment there, and we will get somebody top notch from this industry. And it's a very paying field.
They will pay
If
you.
you, as Nupur added, if you it won't happen overnight, but it's a very paying field. You get paid anything from, as he said, 2,500. I won't say nobody comes so cheap now, unless you are just building up your this thing. But otherwise, 10,000 plus is easily achievable.
Yes.
So don't think that it's something, just run of the mill. It is very specialized and it's very paying, but it demands a lot of hard work from you. Anyway, so that was related to the coaching and freelancing part of it. So, what are the common? So you have already discussed the common positions in education sector. You tell me one thing that so I can either join as a teacher or a professor. I mean, in the teaching line, or I can be in the non-teaching line and still be part of education sector. So if I'm
Yes.
in the teaching line and at the university level, is PhD a must? Uh, if I am not a PhD, if I am say masters in some subject, then how does one join this? Is there anything else required?
See, generally, the basic qualification for being a teacher, one advantage I'll say first is that most of the educational institutes are available everywhere. So, whether you
Right.
are talking about Mehsana, whether you are talking about Ahmedabad, whether you are talking about Delhi, Bombay, Nagpur, or Kochi, or Coimbatore, wherever we are residing, you would find an educational institute everywhere. So, this is one biggest advantage because many a time we do not want to leave our comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So this is one. As far as qualification is concerned, different colleges have different courses which are running. So you may have a medical course, you may have an engineering course, you may have a management course, you may have a journalism course, law course, and henceforth. Whichever course you feel is more suitable to you, ideally a person should be a master. But masters will give you only an opportunity at the start level. To grow in the academic career, it is recommended that you have the PhD. However, 10 years back, there was a policy where the people from industry or experienced people could come as a professor of practice. So
Right.
many institutes hire them. You have an option of going on to full time, oblique you have an option of going into part time or also a guest faculty. So, depending upon your qualification, if you are still in a phase where you are looking at moving into academics, ideally I would recommend that you pursue your PhD. However, if you are still masters, still you can join as a part of the academic team.
Right. So, but PhD, Nupur, if you are in the age bracket of say late 30s or 40s, it is still okay. But for a person like me who's 54, 55, 50, I mean 50 plus, young bracket. So, so for them, I think it's 4 5 years of hard work, at least 4 years.
Yes, sir.
I'm not aware, but I think it is at least 4 years. So,
Yes, sir.
uh, so how does one do? One puts in 4 years of hard work and that does PhD and then retire at 60. Is it 60 the retiring age?
No, sir. I'll put some light on this. First thing is, yes, PhD takes at least 4 years. So I am talking about the minimum limit. There are people who have finished the PhD in 7, 8, or even more years. This is one
Okay.
aspect. So it is not as easy. Second aspect is generally in teaching line, if you are PhD, especially with all these defense people who are coming from the defense services, they already have an administrative experience. A PhD will add to your profile and you will be able to join at the senior level. Second, third part of this is that generally in academics, if you are doing well as a teacher, initially till 60, 65, you can be a part of the regular faculty. After that, you can become a consultant in this field, oblique you can carry on as a guest faculty or a consulting faculty or a guiding faculty also. So many of times it does help. Generally, the notion is that people retire at 60. However, in education field, you can be suitably occupied because the physical activity which is required is comparatively less. So you can be suitably occupied from 65 to 70 also. So I don't
Right.
think the teaching effort, the effort that you have put in to garner your PhD is going to be defined. No, but I personally think learning is a process which will continue throughout your life. So don't do PhD just because you want to get to a particular role or you want to get a job. If you have an inclination for research and you take academics seriously, then possibly do it because it's a lot of hard work. And these days, doing a PhD from private universities is also a lot of cost.
Yeah, that was I was coming to that question also. So it entails a lot of expenditure also. How can one minimize that expenditure?
So by joining the government universities, I'll share personal experiences. I would qualify all the entrance tests for government universities. But the moment you go to most of the government universities, they also have a quota system. So, as a general candidate, I would never land up in the merit as far as the after the quota system. So, after trying for 2, 3 years, I thought let me leave it there and maybe join a private university. But generally, if you are earning well, you will be able to bear the expenditure. It is normal, like education cost है, पर बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है. But yes, comparative to government universities, your private university cost is slightly higher.
But in private universities also there is a this thing. From where have you done it? I mean, you there are so many universities who keep awarding these PhDs. I think uh, it's not a very clear track for many.
Here, I would like to put a piece of advice to all. If you are looking at doing a PhD, please check what is the reputation of the university. Sorry to say, there are certain universities which are doing for money also, and sometimes people buy the degrees also. So I would not advise because maybe that you get a degree, but in the longer run, most of the people in academics are aware of what is the fact and what is the hard-earned degree. And let's keep the cost of the degree aside. If you have not done the work yourself, when you interact, people can make out how much they may not embarrass you on that, but they can make out whether your degree is a hardened degree or you have just got it. So don't waste your time, effort, and money on something which is going to spoil your reputation from the environment you come from.
So Nupur, you are actually motivating me also. 65, 70 years बोल के ना मतलब I am also now motivated to start rethinking on because I had once started this process and then withdrew. No, who will do it for 4 5 years? But now I am again thinking about it, so I will definitely trouble you after the talk
My,
also. So,
my pleasure.
so but when you are suppose somebody uh, joins this particular field in the university only, say after masters, and simultaneously can somebody pursue his PhD?
Yes, sir. There are multiple options. Either if you are so inclined and you want to do a regular PhD, which generally people of younger age do. Most of the people who are working do not go in for a regular PhD. They go in for either a part-time where you have to finish your coursework and other things, and rest of the time you have to possibly go once or twice in 6 months to meet your guide and the research committee. So generally, those who are working, and most of the academic faculties do this, they join the job and they join as a part-time. Some of the universities give this option that you finish your coursework and then you can possibly come as and when your guide requires. So you can do it part-time also.
Right. So, Nupur, before we move ahead, uh, there is something which my partner, my co-founder, my friend, philosopher, guide, Vipul Choudhary keeps pulling me up for that I don't ask people for joining Value Talks. So, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe to Value Talks. There's a lot of startups which are coming up, and I have seen so many of these startups are falling back to academia for support. So that is another thing which makes it quite lucrative. Somebody maybe if somebody is doing a startup in psychology domain, so he's taking help of the professor in psychology. Somebody is doing from some other domain, they are taking help from that particular subject matter expert. So that is another thing which has opened up, and it's opened up big time, I think. So can you are you also in the same this thing? You also think so that there is a scope in this particular area also, besides and there are a lot of incubation centers opening up for these startups
Yes.
in the universities. So that is
Yes.
another exciting thing about this domain.
See, it is somehow related. Before I go to this question, I will like to touch upon one aspect which possibly I missed out. Most of the time, the institutes also have an opportunity for a marketing. So, I think initially you mentioned that listening up with the various institutes, listening up with the various companies or industries, also getting the admission or promoting the institute. All those things are also a part of. So, you were making a marketing pitch, and on the same side, I'm trying to explain that there are marketing opportunities where people, those who are good in sales, those who are good in listening, so you can have those opportunities which will help you to bring in the sales aspect or the marketing or branding aspect. Now, coming back to your question where you were talking about the incubation center or you were talking about the entrepreneurship, research is a part and parcel of any teaching environment.
Right.
Because most of us are involved in research, lot of experience which goes through understanding various cases, various aspects, and what are the things. It becomes easier to look into the aspects why a particular product may be successful or may fail, or what are the issues or challenges that people find while starting up new companies, or how do you go in for funding, or how do you find out the right resources. So at that point of time, because at any point of time, because of research and the liaison with various students and people around, it helps uh, the entrepreneurs to understand what are the options where they can get the input from teaching fraternity. And that is why most of the companies start up, they have their incubation center with the universities. And they get students also to work with them.
Right, right, right. And I personally, I think so because I'm not from this particular, but it must have been very exciting. You're trying out something new. You're assisting those founders, co-founders, and it becomes a success. There's so much of satisfaction one gets. So yeah, I think I envy you. You know. So so Nupur, I'm going to ask you something, which is quite debatable. In fact, just in last 2, 3 talks, it was quite debated. Okay, I'll give you an example. There was a vacancy which was floated by us, and then I got quite a few resumes. And before that, we had conducted a master resume class. resume writing, CV writing class, how one should go about it. And especially for armed forces officers, we took example and we explained how you should uh, write your CV in a language which is understandable by the civilian person, most probably by him or her. And when I got those CVs, uh, they were not good. People had not put in that kind of effort. They had not read the job description. So, so what is the importance of? So there are so many officers in defense forces who are masters or who are already PhDs or MBAs. They have already, while they are in service, they have acquired these qualifications. Such and but when they write the CV, it does not reflect. So, what is the importance of CV in your opinion? CV or resume, whatever you call it.
See, I'll put it in simple terms. Whatever you are is reflected in black and white in your resume. So before you actually go in for attending an interview, you're screening, or I'll say selection or rejection. It is not that you are not capable. Something like we all have gone through SSB and we say a rejection in SSB does not mean you're not capable. So a rejection at CV level does not mean that you're not capable, but the problem happens is most of the time the people who are sitting as HR in most of the institutes do not have much of a exposure of understanding what the service personnel do. And I'll give you a small example. For example, I am a quartermaster. For example, I am a CEO of a regiment. Or for example, I am a brigadier sab, handling a brigade. Or for example, I am a general sab or handling the station. Now, even if we have written this, a civilian doesn't understand a bit out of it. However, if I write that I was managing the logistics and supply chain management for ammunition and stores from X place to Y place with a challenge level of, let's say, difficult, because I was taking the stores from a peace area to Kargil. So you have to convey what you have actually done. Let's say you were an instructor in one of the academies. So you have trained these many people. Or let's say you were an instructor come DS code. So if we understand DS code, the civilian doesn't understand. So you have to write either a head of department or a senior faculty or a administrative head for a training establishment which had 1,000 jawans and 50 officers. So you have to convey whatever you have done in the language that the person who is reading it understands. Let's say you are very good in documentation, filing. There is a model of inspection in most of the institutes, which is either NAC accreditation or ISSB accreditation or so many other platforms. So have you managed those documents? So you have to convert whatever you have done. Let's say you looked into the training of Jawans. So how do you convert it? जवान की जगह स्टूडेंट है, क्या क्या स्किल्स आपने सिखाए, that has to be reflected in your profile. And what happens, I personally have gone through that phase, and I'm sure most of us go through that phase once when we are told to rehash our resumes. So one,
So
the resume
very
should
well brought
cover
out.
maximum.
Very well
Max.
brought out. Nupur. I will just add that, and when you are highlighting all these things, at that time, if you have done some course of instruction which is specific to army only, it need not be written in that. It may not. You may not mention it also because it is not carrying any weight there. So you have to actually weigh what is more relevant for that particular job which you are applying for. And if you have, as she said, even if you may be involved in designing the curriculum, so mention that you uh, content development, curriculum design for so and so level of students, etc., etc. All these things you should mention instead of mentioning that you did some course, platoon weapon course. It doesn't make any sense. So mention relevant things which are, and also read the job description. And I strongly recommend that you people watch the video of that master class on CV writing, and it will benefit you. Nupur has brought out really some very relevant points here. Nupur, moving ahead. So we have all understood that it is important. Moving ahead, tell me पैसे कितने आते हैं?
सर पैसे उतने आते हैं जहां पर आप
Range,
पिच करते
range.
हैं.
Okay, range. It's decently paid.
सर कई बार पैसा is one dynamics. A lot depend on how you pitch. One. Second, the place where you are, the kind of salaries you get in Bombay, you do not get in Pune.
Right.
Similarly, the kind of salaries that you get in Delhi and Noida, you might not get in Ghaziabad, which is just 5 kilometers away.
Absolutely right.
So while you are applying, please ensure that your resume is apt. This is one. Second, you pitch it at that level and see where the wavelength is. Because what happens most of the time, we start our benchmarking from what was the last salary that we were drawing.
No, we then we add that we had a buddy, then we add a value to that buddy. Okay,
Yes.
we made an Excel sheet. So it's a long discussion. We will not have it. Let's
No,
not digress.
but it is well paid depending upon where you are pitching. And secondly, I would recommend that put your resume in the online portals and see what kind of jobs you are getting, what are the kind of salaries that you are getting, and then put where is your minimum benchmark and what is your maximum. There is no limit to maximum, but definitely count that what is your minimum. Below this, you will not go. Try 2-3 interviews only to assess, or as we say, gauge the water to find out as to how much you are getting in that market. Maybe Indore is not giving you as much as you are getting in Delhi.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So pitch yourself smartly, do research, go to Glassdoor's, ambitionbox.com and all these the sites which I mentioned sometime back. So go there. Also make connections. Go to LinkedIn, see in which all universities you have people with whom you can connect and find out what is the salary range and then pitch yourself accordingly.
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind, on your health, yeah. You gotta work, never tell, keep your head down.